My husband demanded a DNA test moments after I gave birth, but he underestimated what I'd do to protect my daughter and our legacy. The words that just came out of my husband's mouth are far worse than the pain that rips through me like a sharp blade. Adam comes forward, his pricey suit immaculately ironed despite the 12 hours we've spent in this delivery room, while I'm still gasping for air, trembling and drenched in sweat. He says, "I want a DNA test," in a flat, impersonal voice that sounds like he's ordering coffee rather than asking about our baby daughter's paternity. With her hand still holding our baby, my baby, the nurse freezes. The beeping monitors suddenly become too loud and obtrusive, and the room appears to shrink. Dr. Collins's wrinkled face wrinkles in worry as he looks up from his charts. My voice sounds odd and aloof, as if it were someone else's. "Adam, what are you talking about?" I ask. He refuses to look at me. Rather, he looks at our 7-pound daughter. 4 ounces of excellence, with calculating coldness. "You heard me, McKenna. I want proof she's mine." Like poison gas, the accusation lingers in the air. This is the result of 12 years of marriage. To make him feel even a small portion of the agony pulsing through my chest, I want to shout and throw something. Rather, I chuckle. It's an unpleasant sound, bitter and nasty. "Get out!" The words make my tongue taste like metal. "Get out before I call security." Dr. Collins begins, "Mrs. Harrison." But Adam interrupts. He takes out his phone and runs his fingers across the screen, saying, "I have every right to be here and every right to request this test." "My lawyer says." "Your lawyer? You've been talking to your lawyer while I was in labor?" I blurt out. The only indication that he is still capable of feeling guilt is a faint flush that appears on his neck. I've been preparing for this moment for weeks. The word keeps repeating in my mind. Weeks. My husband was organizing this ambush as I was folding little onesies and choosing nursery colors. I feel as though I've been physically struck by the understanding. Bless the nurse, she puts herself in our way. "Sir, perhaps we should continue this discussion outside." "No." I ignore my aching body's protest and push myself to sit up taller. "Let him stay. Let him watch the test. Let him see exactly how wrong he is." Something flickers in Adam's eyes, but his expression remains unchanged. Disappointment? Solace? I can no longer tell. I used to be familiar with all telltale signs and micro-expressions. At what point did my husband lose his identity? "I'll set it up right away," Dr. Collins states in a deliberately casual tone. Though I must say, in my 30 years of practice. "Just do it," instructs Adam. I used to find his nervous habit of straightening his tie charming. The sooner we know the truth, the better. The reality. As though he still knows what that word implies. My girl, our daughter, is sleeping soundly in the bassinet, oblivious to the storm that is building all around her. Her dark hair, like mine, is already beginning to curl, and her little fingers are balled into fists. Even though my hands are shaking, I answer, "Fine," in a calm voice. "Do the test. But when it proves what I already know, don't expect forgiveness." His phone buzzes. Adam. He looks at it and his mask briefly comes off. Fear? Feeling guilty? He's on his way to the door before I can comprehend it. He says, "I'll be back tomorrow," without turning around. "My lawyer will contact you about the arrangements." I can breathe again as the door snaps shut behind him. Dr. Collins touches my shoulder tenderly. "McKenna, I'm so sorry." "Don't." I grab my phone, fingers already locating Sam's number. "I'll let my cousin know what to do. He always does. Just get me the paperwork for the test, and Dr. Collins, make sure it's witnessed every step," I respond. His eyes light up with comprehension as he nods. "Of course." I gaze at my daughter once more, committing to memory every exquisite feature of her face. Adam has no idea what he started, regardless of the game he's playing or the falsehoods he's telling himself. After 3 days in the hospital, Sam feels as though his flat is a haven. As Tara bustles around the kitchen brewing tea, I curl up with Emma on his worn leather couch. My worries are calmed by the familiar smell of coffee grounds and old books, but my hands continue to shake. Saying, "He's changed all the locks," I observe Sam pacing. "Changed the security codes too. 12 years of marriage, and he locks me out like I'm some kind of criminal." With his journalist's notebook already stuffed with scrawled notes, Sam stops pacing. When exactly did things start changing with Adam? Think back carefully. The inquiry is a kind of gut strike. I close my eyes and attempt to remember when my marriage started to go apart. Maybe 4 months ago. He started working late, missing doctor's appointments. Said it was a big merger, the Preston Tech deal. Tara's expression is disturbed as she puts down a mug of chamomile tea. That closed months ago. I give it a quick glance. How do you know that? Tara looks at Sam and says, because my sister works in their PR department. The deal fell through in March, when Adam began bringing pricey new suits home. When the enigmatic business travel started. When he completely stopped caressing me. Sam taps his pen against the notebook and says, this is what doesn't add up. Why wait until the baby was born to demand a DNA test? Why not do it during pregnancy? Because he needed a scene, states Tara in a low voice. He needed witnesses. It dawns on me like a blast of cold water. He's building a case against me. Emma stirs in my arms, and I instinctively move her blanket. Her little face reminds me of how calm and trustworthy I used to be. Reluctantly, Sam says, there's something else. I made some calls. Adam's been meeting with divorce attorneys since January. January, I mumble. Looking down at Emma, I caught myself saying, when I first told him I was pregnant. When he smiled and hugged me and said everything was perfect. That son of a... Why go through with the pregnancy if he was planning this all along? Because of the Harrison family trust, Tara responds accordingly. Your father-in-law's will had specific conditions about heirs, didn't it? Things begin to come together. Even when I say, the trust only pays out if there are legitimate children, my voice sounds empty. He needed proof the baby wasn't his to invalidate the claim. Sam's phone is buzzing. His face darkens as he looks at it. Adam just posted on LinkedIn. He's accepted a new position at Grant Technologies. Grant. The name makes me think of something. Wait, isn't that the company that tried to buy out Harrison Industries last year? Sam concludes. The same one your father-in-law refused to sell to before he died. We all jump when someone knocks on the door. Glancing through the peephole, Tara takes a rapid step back. It's Adam. Don't open it, I say, holding Emma tighter. Adam's words, McKenna, echo through the door. I know you're in there. The DNA test is scheduled for tomorrow morning. My lawyer insists you be present. I take Sam's arm as he approaches the door. Wait. Let him talk. Adam goes on. You're making this harder than it needs to be. His voice becoming almost soft. Just come home. We can work this out. I slowly get to my feet so as not to wake Emma. Work what out, Adam? The lies? The secret meetings? Or how about the trust fund you're trying to steal? Quiet. Then, I don't know what you think you know. I know enough. I no longer tremble when I say this. I know about Grant Technologies. I know about the divorce lawyers. And soon, I'll know everything else too. One more pause. The veneer of tenderness vanishes when he talks again. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Neither do you. Something hardens inside me as I gaze down at our girl, my daughter. Game on, Adam. He backtracks along the corridor. What's the plan? Asks Sam after locking the door and turning to face me. I take my phone out and go through my old contacts until I locate the one I need. First, we find out everything we can about Grant Technologies. And then, I answer the phone. We call in some favors. Before a recognizable voice responds, the phone rings again. Dr. Collins, I need your help with something. With a somber expression, Dr. Collins slips the phone across his desk. These messages were automatically backed up to the cloud account you shared. I thought you should see them. When I take up the smartphone, my hands shake. 2 days before my labor, the timestamp indicates 3:47 a.m. The message says, everything's arranged. Once the test results come back, she won't have any claim to the trust. Make sure you stick to the plan. Adam has responded. She suspects nothing, just keep your father focused on the merger. Evelyn Grant, says Dr. Collins softly, is Marcus Grant's daughter. I find the name to be bitter. Last year, he attempted to compel my father-in-law to sell his business. With his journalistic instincts taking over, Sam leans forward. The same Marcus Grant who mysteriously acquired 3 board seats after your father-in-law's death. I continue to scan through texts, each one getting worse. Plans. Gatherings. Personal information that makes my stomach turn. They've been seeing each other since January, I murmur. The same month I told him about the baby. Sam asserts, the timing is not coincidental. Grant Technologies announced their hostile takeover bid last week. With Adam's help, they'll have controlling interest in Harrison Industries, unless there's a legitimate heir. The parts fit together perfectly. That's why he needs the DNA test. To show Emma isn't his. It's not about the baby at all. It's about the company. We are interrupted by a knock. Tara enters with a pallid face. Adam's here, with lawyers. Even though my heart is racing, I make myself remain composed. Let them in. Adam walks in with 2 suits that probably cost more than my yearly income, as if he owns the place. He's wearing a tie I've never seen before, and he seems different. Colder, sharper. Dr. Collins begins. This is a private medical facility, but Adam interrupts. The elder attorney says, my client has every right to supervise the paternity test that we're conducting. We have concerns about potential tampering. I chuckle. I'm unable to stop it. Tampering? That's rich, coming from you. Adam clenches his jaw. Careful, McKenna, you're already facing potential fraud charges if... I raise the phone and ask, if what? If these messages somehow become public? The ones showing you and Evelyn planning to steal your father's company? He becomes motionless. I catch a glimpse of genuine terror in his eyes. You had access to my private... I go up and exclaim, your private messages on our shared cloud account, my rage giving me courage. The one you forgot to disconnect when you were so busy planning your little corporate takeover. Adam's visage darkens as the younger attorney murmurs something in his ear. He responds, this changes nothing, but his tone falters. The test will proceed exactly as planned. In a strong tone, Dr. Collins interrupts. Under my supervision, with witnesses present. Unless you'd prefer to explain to the board why you're colluding with Grant Technologies while serving as Harrison Industries' CFO. Sam moves forward while Adam's hand fumbles with his phone. I wouldn't, answers Sam with ease. My article about corporate espionage at Grant Technologies goes live in an hour. Fascinating stuff about insider trading and family betrayal. Adam responds, you're bluffing, yet his forehead is dripping with perspiration. I approach while speaking quietly. You want a war, Adam? Fine. But remember, you taught me everything about corporate finance during those late-night strategy sessions. Everything. I stop and show him his most recent communication to Evelyn, which was about love and eternity. Always keep receipts. The elder lawyer clears his throat as they look at one another. Perhaps we should discuss terms. No terms, I respond, observing Adam's flawless exterior crumble. No deals. You wanted to play dirty? Let's play. But remember, you're not just fighting for money anymore. You're fighting for survival. Adam's shoulders are stiff with rage as they depart. Sam lets out a faint whistle. That was something. I sit back down and mutter, just the beginning, as my legs feel like they might give out. Dr. Collins, how long until the test results? 24 hours, he responds, closely examining me. Are you sure about this? Once we start, I interrupt, I'm sure, in a firm voice. I look at the picture of him and my father-in-law during his medical school graduation that is on his desk. He trusted the wrong people. I won't make the same mistake. Sam gives me a shoulder squeeze. What's next? I take out my phone and navigate to a number I never would have imagined using. Next, we talk to Evelyn Grant. It's time she learned what kind of man she's really dealing with. With its sky-high steel and glass, the Grant Technologies lobby shines with riches and power. Feeling small, I shift Emma's carrier on my arm till I see my reflection in the gleaming marble. Adam got me this suit for board meetings, and it's one of his favorite suits. The armor is what counts, even though it fits differently now. The receptionist says, Miss Grant is in a meeting, without even looking up. I say, tell her McKenna Harrison is here, in a firm voice. With her fiancé's baby. Keys no longer click. Her eyes enlarge when she notices Emma's dark locks, which resemble Adam's a lot. Evelyn Grant and I are seated opposite one another in her corner office 5 minutes later. She's younger than I anticipated, and she's immaculately groomed in a way that befits careful breeding and old money. Her 3-carat princess-cut engagement ring, which is identical to the one in Adam's browsing history, catches the light. She claims, I don't understand, but her hands deceive her by twisting a pen till her knuckles turn white. Adam never mentioned a wife, a baby. Emma fusses, but I handle it with practiced ease. Funny how those details slip his mind when he's planning corporate takeovers. The color fades from her face. You can't prove. With screenshots visible, I move my phone across her desk. Actually, I can't. The question is, what will your father say when he learns his perfect future son-in-law is still married? That he's using your relationship to manipulate Harrison Industries stock? Evelyn murmurs, you're lying, but she's already using her immaculately manicured finger to browse through the texts. Her expression hardens with each message. The DNA test is tomorrow, I add, observing her expression. Adam's quite confident about the results, almost like he knows something I don't. She glances up abruptly, terror and recognition flickering in her eyes. My phone is buzzing. My blood runs cold after reading Sam's text. Lab break-in last night. Security video was deleted. He wouldn't, Evelyn murmurs, more to herself than to me. Your father's company stands to gain millions if Harrison Industries falls, I say while leaning forward. And Adam stands to gain everything, unless there's a legitimate heir. She snaps the pen in her hands. Her immaculate desk calendar is marred by ink, which stains both merger dates and wedding venue appointments. Get out, she says tremblingly, before I call security. I slowly stand up, drawing Emma next to me. You know what's funny? I ask in a cool yet incisive tone. He bought me that exact same ring 5 years ago. Promised me the same forever. Even used the same pet names. She shouts, I said get out. I quietly remark, check his phone, and stop at the door. The one he keeps in his gym locker. The one with the real messages. She becomes motionless. How did you, when I say, because I was you once, I make my way to the door and then stop again, saying, young, in love, certain he was different. Oh, and Evelyn, when you confront him, watch his left eyebrow. It twitches when he lies. On her broken face, the elevator doors close. I write to Sam, my hands shaking, it's done. Begin the second phase. He responds right away. Tara's lab contact verified attempts at tampering. The test is being moved to a secure location by Dr. Collins. Another message from an unidentified phone appears. When I open it, my heart stops. Clever girl, writes Adam. You can't remember who taught you how to play chess though. Check your email from Harrison Industries. If you don't leave the board within 1 hour, the creative accounting adjustments you assisted me with last year will be made public. It's your turn. I gaze at the screen, reliving the memories of late hours spent poring over spreadsheets, following Adam's instructions, and signing documents he insisted were standard. The realization of how long he has been planning this makes my stomach turn. Emma's little hand catches my finger as she stirs. I see my own resolve, my father-in-law's strength, and something else in her face that Adam never realized was part of the Harrison family's history. I call Dr. Collins. How quickly can you access the original audit files from last year? In response, already done. And McKenna, I found something interesting in your father-in-law's private records, something about a contingency plan. I smile for the first time in days. Tell me everything. With its clean whiteness and security cameras monitoring our every step, the safe lab feels like a fortress. Adam's attorneys hover close by while Dr. Collins stands at the testing station, his countenance unreadable. Emma ignores the stress that permeates the room as she rests in her carrier. When Dr. Collins says, the results will be available in 30 minutes, all parties will remain present. The door flings itself open. With mascara smearing her cheeks and her flawless poise ruined, Evelyn bursts in. I yell, you bastard! Adam takes a step back, his self-assured facade falling off. Evelyn, this isn't, she spits out, the gym locker, and throws her phone to him. It strikes the wall with a crash. 3 other women, and you're still married. The attorneys look at each other in horror. Sam stops him as he goes for his briefcase. Until we hear those results, Sam replies softly. Nobody leaves? Adam's uncomfortable gesture of straightening his tie is something I had nearly forgotten. This is ridiculous. Whatever McKenna told you? Evelyn interrupts him, her voice cracking. She didn't have to tell me anything. Your friend Marcus was quite helpful once I showed him the real numbers behind the Grant Technology merger. Adam's face loses color. You didn't? She smiles sharply and bitterly. Daddy's on his way with the SEC. A message from Tara says, security footage recovered, and my phone vibrates. A suspect in a lab break-in was identified. I give Dr. Collins the phone. After examining the picture, he turns to face Adam's younger attorney. The man begins to perspire. Interesting, says Dr. Collins in a cool but acerbic tone. Very interesting indeed. Adam looks from one of us to the other, calculating. I know the expression he gets when he's going to give up a piece to keep the game going. Adam says abruptly, the accounting irregularities, in a loud voice. McKenna signed off on all of them. She's just as culpable. With the exception of the backup plan, I break off, maintaining eye contact. The one my father-in-law left with Dr. Collins before he died. Adam becomes motionless. What? He knew Adam. About the embezzlement, about Grant Technologies. He documented everything, I add, now speaking steadily. Including your attempts to access Emma's trust fund before she was even born. Clearing his throat, the senior attorney does so. Mr. Harrison, perhaps we should... Shut up. Adam's calmness totally breaks. His fists are clenched as he rounds on me. You're bluffing? Richard trusted me, Dr. Collins adds in a low, uncompromising voice. Not just as his doctor but as executor of his estate, including the real will. The device emits a beep. Test findings are available. Sam stops Adam before he can get the printout. It's over, declares Sam. The SEC has everything: fake DNA test orders, embezzlement records, even your deals with Marcus. The hall reverberates with the sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps. Adam steps back from the entrance. "McKenna," he adds as his voice mellows into that accustomed cunning tone. "We can still fix this, for Emma's sake?" I say, "Don't you dare," with words that burn like acid. "Don't you dare use our daughter as a bargaining chip." The door opens. First to arrive are two SEC agents and Marcus Grant. Tara holds out her phone behind them, documenting everything. One agent says, "Adam Harrison, you are being investigated for securities fraud." The events that follow are shown in slow motion. Adam rushes to the emergency room. The younger attorney tries to stop him. Sam shouts something about treachery. Emma is unaware of the mayhem and sleeps soundly in her carrier while it all. Dr. Collins holds out the test findings while touching my arm. "Do you want to know?" I look at the paper and go back to all the times I questioned whether Adam was telling the truth or if I had failed as a mother or a wife. I eventually respond, "No," as I see my spouse get handcuffed by SEC officers. The results don't matter anymore. She's my daughter. That's all I need to know. Marcus Grant walks up, his expression solemn. "Mrs. Harrison, we'll need your testimony tomorrow." I pull Emma in close. "Right now, I'm taking my daughter home." I hear Adam yelling my name as we head out, desperate now, realizing what he's lost. I don't turn around. Not every game is worth winning. Some successes come from letting go rather than seeking retribution. Lawyers, testimony, and struggles for control of Harrison Industries are all part of tomorrow. But I've got all I need in my arms tonight. The boardroom at Harrison Industries is cooler than I recall. After the SEC probe was made public, half of the board left, so perhaps that's why there are empty seats. Perhaps it's the way Sam avoids eye contact with me or the way Dr. Collins is constantly looking at his watch. Marcus Grant spreads paperwork across the gleaming table and declares, "The evidence is conclusive." The results of the DNA test were changed before they were sent to the lab. Adam's new attorney cuts in with a suave voice, "However, Mrs. Harrison was complicit in the financial irregularities, according to my client." Even I sound hollow when I explain, "The signature on these documents was forged. I never..." "Can you demonstrate it?" More documents are slid forward by the attorney. "The evidence from these trading records indicates otherwise. During the relevant period, there were significant transfers to your personal account." As I recognize the account numbers, my hands shake. It's our joint account, the one Adam ordered I cease keeping an eye on since he had it handled. This is absurd. Sam stands up suddenly. McKenna allegedly approved these transactions while she was on maternity leave. The lawyer has a shark-like smile. Timestamps indicate otherwise. The doctor clears his throat. Marcus Grant continues. "The contingency plan has been compromised," his words tumbling like stones. "Last night, someone gained access to Richard Harrison's personal documents. Everything is gone. The space whirls. I feel the earth move beneath me as I hold onto the edge of the table. That's not possible. The security procedures were bypassed," the attorney states in a tone that borders on empathetic. "Using your login information and some really intriguing emails regarding offshore accounts." My phone is buzzing. I'm shivering after reading Tara's message. Emergency updates. Company stock is plunging. Reports regarding fraud at Harrison Industries' various levels are currently in the news. The DNA test fiasco is causing a lot of conjecture on social media. I can explain, but Adam's attorney raises his hand. He straightens his papers and stands up saying, "Save it for the SEC hearing." In the meantime, considering the situation, the board has called for an emergency vote of no confidence. "You can't," the words grate on my throat. My father-in-law dedicated his life to this business. He had faith in me? Believed you? Adam's voice interrupts, causing me to wince. Despite the ankle monitor indicating his house imprisonment, he stood spotless in the doorway. "As if I trusted you not to speak to Evelyn behind my back. You dare not." With ease, he adds, "The board needs stability. Someone who can weather this storm with clean hands. Thankfully, I have a deal with the SEC that calls for complete cooperation in return for a lighter sentence." The pieces fit together perfectly. The fake signatures, the corrupted data, and the meticulously crafted paper trail that leads directly to me. "You're going to blame me for everything." The realization is bitter. The cover-up, the fraud, all of it. I told Evelyn that he twitches his left eyebrow. McKenna, you did this to yourself. If you had simply cooperated. Did you play along? I get up so fast that my chair falls over. While you embezzled the inheritance of my daughter? Richard built everything, but you ruined it all? His grin turns ruthless. Regarding that, the initial results of the DNA test were really intriguing. There is silence in the room. Security personnel intervene as Sam approaches Adam. I mutter, "You're lying." But suspicion seeps in like poison. All those late hours at work, the enigmatic business trips, the way he avoided talking about nursery colors or baby names. Am I? He asks as he takes out his phone and displays a test result that I have never seen before. Do you want to know how these genetic markers work? Dr. Collins begins to say something, but Adam's attorney interrupts him. In light of the situation, my client is ready to request complete custody. When evaluating a person's suitability for parenthood, the court typically disapproves of fraud and embezzlement. The world becomes extremely small. I saw Emma's face, her dark locks, her little fingers. Her early giggles and nighttime sobs are audible to me. The only thing that has felt genuine since this nightmare started is the weight of her in my arms. Adam whispers, "In an hour, the board will vote. Sign over your shares, resign immediately, and perhaps we can set up supervised visitation." I sway and Sam takes my arm. Don't, McKenna. My vision is blurry, though, and I'm already reaching for the resignation letter. Sometimes giving up isn't the same as surrender. Sometimes the goal is to purchase time so that you can fight in a different way. At midnight, the atmosphere in Dr. Collins' office is different. His father's medical degrees are shadowed, and our footsteps are obscured by the constant buzz of backup generators. While Tara does her magic on the computer, Sam stands guard at the door. I found it, she murmurs. The initial backup of the server. During the purge, Adam's crew didn't notice it. When I put in the flash drive Richard Harrison gave me years ago, his insurance policy, which I never imagined I'd need, my hands trembled. How much time? With her fingers gliding over the keyboard, Tara responds, 10 minutes to decrypt. If the passwords that your father-in-law used are still valid. The door slams open. Adam is standing there with 2 security officers on either side of him, his ankle monitor glaring accusingly in the dark. He replies, I knew you'd try something desperate, as he enters and adjusts his handcuffs. However, breaking and entering? That will appear awful during the custody hearing. Sam shifts between us. How did you discover? Adam's eyes do not meet his smile. Dr. Collins isn't as devoted as you believed. Everybody has a cost. Like the cost of Evelyn, the words have a harsh taste? Or did she only serve as a stepping stone? For a moment he loses his cool. You're not aware of the stakes. Behind me, Tara whispers. 7 minutes. Adam narrows his gaze. It won't matter what you're attempting to recover. Tomorrow morning, the board will cast its vote. Your resignation has already been handled. As I watch the progress meter creep, I remark, resignations are a funny thing. If they were signed under duress or if the person requesting them is engaging in fraud, they are not valid. He chuckles, but there's a hint of doubt. There is nothing you can prove. 15 minutes, Tara replies. Adam gives the guards a signal. Stop it, right now? I move forward and play my final card, saying, wait. The actual DNA is the outcome. Let me see them. We have experienced this. Either show me, or I send the SEC everything we discover, including every email, transaction, and encounter with Marcus Grant. He twitches his left eyebrow. You're playing a bluff. 3 minutes, declares Tara. The security personnel approach the PC. Sam stiffens, prepared to step in. Adam's words, she's yours, stop everyone cold. The actual DNA test demonstrates that she is yours. I needed leverage, so I changed the outcomes. I just sense clarity, even though the admission should be painful. In any case, you never desired her, did you? She was merely another resource to manage. For 2 minutes, Tara replies. At last, Adam's facade breaks. Do you believe this has to do with a baby? Power is at issue here. Command. All of the promises Richard made to me when he appointed me CFO, I whisper. He promised you a legacy, not a kingdom to steal. A minute. Adam makes a foray towards the computer. Tara shields the screen and Sam stops him. Something, a phone I've never seen before, drops out of Adam's pocket amid the confusion. I pick it up and immediately see the texts. Plans to dismantle Harrison Industries for parts, discussions with Marcus Grant, and something else, Dr. Collins' correspondence. Tara declares gleefully, it's done. Everything has been decoded. Adam becomes motionless. You should avoid opening that file. However, I already am. The room is filled with the voice of Richard Harrison, who made a video confession just days before he passed away. He gives names, explains plans, then offers a last surprise. Now that I finally understand, I tell Adam, the company was never yours to steal. Before he passed away, Richard made a revision to his will. He gave Emma the reins of power. Adam says, trembling, impossible. She was not born at all. I show him the will's date. Adam, he was aware. Almost everything, including the fraud, the affairs, and the agreements with Grant Technologies. You've been playing the exact game he anticipated the entire time. In the distance, police sirens blare. Adam's expression changes to one of rage. You believe you've triumphed? The board, the proof, and your signed confession are still with me. Check your phone, Sam murmurs. The one you just dropped, the real one. Evelyn's father pulling all support, Marcus Grant cutting agreements to save himself, the SEC renewing their investigation, and Dr. Collins sent one last message. I kept my promise, Richard. Adam's eyes widened as the messages poured in. The heritage of your granddaughter is secure. Adam collapses, his empire of lies crumbling around him, as the police storm in. However, I'm already leaving while seeing Emma sleeping soundly at home. Some victories are about defending what's most important, not about winning. The turmoil from last night can still be heard in the Harrison Industries boardroom. The doorway is crossed by police tape, and the conference table where Adam's empire eventually fell apart is covered in evidence markers. Richard Harrison's personal files are in the leather portfolio that Dr. Collins hands me. He murmurs softly, when the time was right, he wanted you to have these. I discover a note inside, buried beneath years' worth of financial documents and business plans. Richard's decisive handwriting is still visible despite the paper's age and the ink's fading. My beloved McKenna, you'll know by now why I picked you to guard Emma's inheritance, not because you're Adam's wife, but because you saw what he couldn't. Stock prices and merger agreements don't measure legacy. It is ingrained in choices, in choosing to defend instead of destroy. Emma is fussy in her job. I reposition her blanket and notice my image in the shadowed windows. Somehow I appear different, stronger, perhaps, or simply more certain. Sam shows up at the door. The SEC wants to take another look at the video testimony. Evelyn Grant is also present. When Evelyn walks in, I anticipate fury, but all I see in her eyes is tiredness. According to her, the board approved the dissolution of the merger attempt. Daddy is resigning? She twists her now ringless fingers and rambles. The scandal. I tell her, I never wanted this. Most of it is true. Neither did I. Her expression softens as she turns to face Emma. He also promised me children, you know. A future in which I genuinely had faith. I respond, I know, since I did the same once. The doctor clears his throat. The new members of the board are ready. They will require guidance about the company's future. Richard's letter about choices and legacies comes to mind. Inform them that we are reorganizing, beginning with the charitable foundation. Funding for programs that assist single parents should be doubled. From where she sits at the computer, already working on the press release, Tara smiles. Our attention is drawn to a disturbance outside. I watch through the glass walls as federal officers carry Adam away, his flawless suit rumpled and his confidence mask finally shattered. He looks at me and begins to say something, but I look away. There are some discussions that are not worthwhile. Dr. Collins pulls out another envelope and says, there's something else. Regarding Emma's trust, your father-in-law left detailed instructions. It's a challenge, not simply money. Projects for community investment must equal every dollar. Finally comprehending, I chuckle. He ensured that the legacy would not be taken. It must be earned. Speaking of income, Sam adds, corporate corruption and the price of truth, an investigative piece that recently went live, although I believe karma in the boardroom, sounded more appealing. I decide, no more karma, as I watch Emma fall asleep. No more retaliation either. Just moving forward. Dr. Collins' eyebrow goes up. And Adam? After closing Richard's portfolio, I said, we face justice through proper channels. I've had enough of his games. Evelyn gets up to go, but stops at the door. She nods to Emma and says, for what it's worth, I think Richard chose well, not just for the company, but for her. When she leaves, I stroll over to Richard's former workplace. His nameplate, which will shortly read Harrison Industries Trust Management, is still displayed on the door. His presence permeates every thoughtfully selected detail inside. One final message, dated the day of his death, is slipped inside his desk calendar. Remember, knowing when to stop is more powerful than knowing when to fight. Fortunately, none of her father's calculations are used when Emma wakes up and demands attention. I pick her up and inhale that wonderful infant smell. "Are you prepared to return home?" From the doorway, Sam asks. As I grab our belongings, I correct him, "Not home. Going forward." Reporters wait outside with inquiries concerning scandal and atonement. Lawyers, reorganization plans, and countless decisions regarding Emma's future await us tomorrow. But now, in this silent triumph, I realize what Richard has known all along. Sometimes the best form of retaliation isn't demolishing what other people have created, but rather creating something better out of the ashes they left behind. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.